All right, we are recording. I got my man, Bobby Maximus in the building. I was just thinking, Bobby, that sometimes, kind of the conversations before podcasts get started always tend to have great conversation. And I was like, damn, we should have started recording before. But, it's cool. You're getting situated and what have you. But, to bring folks up to speed a little bit, it was an honor that I got to meet you recently. We were able to collectively put one of your courses together, and even more importantly, get to know each other. And I think we've built a pretty good relationship, man. I mean, at least that's what I think. I don't know how you feel about it, but I really admire how you operate, how you live life, where you've come from, where you're at today, certainly the way you think about things. And, what an honor to bring you on here today to the Curbside Content Podcast for you to bring to the many folks out there, the street smarts on the go, my man. So look, dude, let's have some fun.
I appreciate it, and I want to tell you the feeling is mutual. And despite your culinary ignorance, I have looked past that. And for listeners, this is because Manny has access to Italy. He has access to Richard Blaze's restaurant, Daniel Below's restaurant, Hubert Keller. You haven't eaten at any of them, which disgusts me. I would eat out every day if I lived where you lived. So, I forgive you for that.
Well, it's funny because as soon as you said culinary ignorance, I took for a second. I was like, what the hell is he talking about? Then I realized, oh, he said Italy, which reminded me you were giving me shit for that when you came to Vegas. And then I would argue that, okay, well, look, dude, I'm 34. I'm working my ass off trying to fucking build my dreams to get to somewhere like you, man, to be like the Bobby Maximus. And you're giving me shit for not going and spending my money out eating every night. Dude, come on. Where can we find the balance, bro?
Dude, you got to eat somehow. Might as well eat good food.
Yeah, you're right. Well, obviously, listen. One thing I have noticed about you, we're going to jump into all the great stuff that you do, man, between, your psychology, your background in fighting, really optimizing life, kicking ass. But dude, you've got a pretty good grill. I see you working with there, especially during this quarantine, putting some nice meats together, dude. Any secret sauce to that?
Practice. It's like anything, and actually, it's a good segue. You can hear my little dude talking in the background, right?
Yep, sure can.
Everyone looks at stuff as obstacles in life, and I can't get my work done because I have my kids. I can't learn to cook because I don't know how. I can't get fit because I don't have equipment. Or I don't have time. Everyone's throwing up obstacles. But you're capable of being a good chef or a good cook. You just have to practice, and you have to be prepared to fail a little bit. So if you're at home listening to this and you have no idea how to grill, buy a grill and start trying stuff out. Fortunately for you, the Food Network. You talking for me? You gonna help me out, buddy? You're my little guy, huh? Dad does podcasts with his buddy, but the Food Network, Traeger. There's tons of companies out there that can give you an assist and make stuff way easier than it was 20 years ago. So you just have to try. That's it. And so the secret is you just got to be willing to fail, and you got to be willing to try some stuff out. And guess what? Day one, your food's going to suck. Day two, it'll suck less. Day three, it'll suck even less. But by day 35, you're a pro.
Bobby, good stuff there. And I love how you mentioned great segue there. It's always being able to tune into those segues and capitalize on them. There's so many different directions we can go, we should go. But I think right now, what's really happening right now is very real with coronavirus. People are in fear, they're stressed, they don't know what to do. So I want to get into that. I want to get into what you were just talking about, practice, and how you develop that mindset, how you develop those sort of personal entities that have allowed you to understand this from a bigger level. But before we go to both of those, tell us where you've come from, my man. Like, you've got a very interesting background. You've got a hell of a story. Kind of bring us through that journey and get us up to speed so we can dive into some more of let's go out and get us some new opportunities and capitalize right now during this coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah, I probably spent most of my life failing and trying to figure stuff out. And that probably set the table for who I am now. It's a recurring theme in my life is turning failure into opportunity. I was bullied pretty heavily until I was 15 years old. These kids beat me up and broke my collarbone when I was 15 years old. I was scared. I didn't want it to happen again. I joined the wrestling team. I lost every match my first year. I won only one match out of about 40 my second year. And then I just never quit. And I kept trying to overcome that failure. I don't know if it was fear-driven, shame-driven, or it was just something innate within me, because I did have two parents that loved me very much and taught me to never quit. But I started working out. We getting pinned under a 45-pound barbell. And then I got stronger and I got stronger. And then I started to win in wrestling. Fast forward a little bit. I have a stellar wrestling career. I was second in the world for kickboxing. I'd won some Canadian Jiu-Jitsu championships. I ended up fighting in the UFC. But I wasn't done with failure yet. I got my contract cut from the UFC. Dealt with a career-ending injury. And by career ending, they told me I'd never fight again. Spoiler alert, I did fight again. And then I was a cop. I was a teacher. I had 3 university degrees. Fast forward a little bit, I go through a divorce and I'm a single dad for a little bit. And like, listen, people today, it's comical to me. They're crying and whining about the struggles from working from home. I'm the last person you want to tell that to, because I had my kid 24/7 as a 1-year-old and was working with him and getting shit done. I had to figure it out. And did I lose some business deals over it? Yep. You can hear him. He's ruined a lot of shit for me, this little dude. Actually, not him. His brother did. They just remind me of each other. But yeah, I had some business deals go astray. Because people didn't understand why I brought my kid everywhere. I had some stuff I couldn't take part in. But this has all been learning and been teaching me that, like, failure and adversity, failure and adversity, failure and adversity. And where it came full circle for me is I just stopped giving a fuck. And it's taken me a while. This is really only in the last couple of months I've really embraced this, to tell you the truth, where I've really stopped caring. I am who I am. I'm confident with who I am. And it's go time. But it's been built on 40 years of failing at stuff, Manny. And so now I'm good to go. Like I look at everything, like even with this COVID thing, and I want to be sensitive because I know some people lost their job and some people are struggling.
Sure.
But I just took this on the chin and looked at it as an opportunity. That's it. Like, just like everything else in my life. Because I look back to, I dealt with a career-ending injury. I dealt with being a single dad. I dealt with getting bullied and beat up and get my collarbone broken. I dealt with a divorce. I dealt with, I had a life-threatening injury. A life-threatening illness about 18 months ago. I lost 47 pounds in 30 days. They wanted to take my intestines out. Supposed to be on meds for the rest of my life, and I overcame that. So here I am, and the message is like, if you're confident enough in yourself to do anything you set your mind to, you're probably going to be successful, more successful than most.
Yeah, when you start tracing back the journey for anyone, you usually see some sort of an event or incident. In your case, being bullied kind of causes this, shift and the shakeup to get somebody going in a direction. It's like, never again, no more. I'm not going to be that way. I'm paying attention to sort of like you said, the sentiment of kind of the people right now, what's really happening. Let's just say somebody has called you because you're running a very successful business in Utah. You're training people. We just finished putting together your online training course, which is amazing, the Maximus Mindset. When people are calling you and you're having conversations right now today with them, what are they saying, and how are you telling them to get their mind in the right place and really kind of set themselves straight to overcome this, to understand that this too shall pass, and there is grass that's greener on the other side, right? What is the dialogue like with you to them?
My dialogue's actually different than it ever has been. I've learned to have a lot more sympathy for people. And I've learned to have a lot more patience, because I think, and this is, again, new. This is probably the first time I'm talking about this in public, by the way. But I think what I've realized is, and I'll name some other internet people that I respect. Bradley, who you know rather well, he gives some great advice. Bedros Koulian gives some amazing advice. Andy Frisella gives some amazing advice. And the person at home, I think, can get frustrated because they want to follow this advice, but they don't have the years and years and years and years of experience that it took to be able to put that advice into practice. Does that make sense to you, what I'm saying?
That's so powerful, bro. Absolutely. 10,000%.
And so here I am. And just again, because he's going to be all over this podcast, my kid, I'm here telling you, Manny, you got to suck it up, as if you can't get your work done with kids around. Like, I did this, well, there's the key. I did this already, so I can adapt. But if you've never done this before, it's really hard and scary. So I can give you all the advice in the world and tell you to take it on the chin. What's the quote from Rocky? Life's not about how many times you get hit. It's about how many times you get up and you keep trucking for. Cool, Rocky. But like, if you've never been knocked down before, you don't know how to get up. And so one of the things I've been trying to do with people is just be a voice of reason and give some tough love, but also be compassionate in that it's really hard to have a career for 20 years and be unemployed and then have to all of a sudden build a business or your side hustle from the ground up. Like, it just doesn't, that's scary for people. And so I'm trying to just be more compassionate right now and give people the tools to get better, instead of just telling them, you just need to start a new business, because that doesn't help anybody. Sure. Like, thanks, tips. Like, yeah, I know I need a new job. I got laid off. How do I do this? How do I get to where you got? And by the way, to get to where I am, well, shit, let's say it started when I was 10. Oh, it's 31 years, man, of like experience. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Do you think that we're in a place now more than ever where people have fallen to a place where it's become more comforting and they've not really expanded their skill sets, and they've gotten used to what has become familiar to them, and that this is the great shakeup where it's like, holy shit, dude, we do have to make some adjustments now? Like, what's your opinion towards that as you kind of evaluate the landscape of what's really happening out there?
You know, I'm going to just say this. What's wrong with just hanging out, Manny? What I mean by that is, everyone seems to be criticizing others for not developing a new skill set, not pushing their boundaries, not exploring the potentials of human limits, blah, 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 blah. But what if you had a job you really loved and that was fulfilling to you, and you had a family you really loved and you got your fulfillment from spending time with your kids? You shouldn't be looked down on because you didn't like do an extra degree or develop more skills. You know what I'm saying? Like it's there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's funny with my parents. I think there was a point in my life I kind of used to look down on them a little bit, only because we didn't have that much. My parents worked regular jobs, like blue collar family, didn't have a ton of money. We had one car in the family growing up. I didn't get a car when I was 16. I didn't get a car when I was 17. I didn't get my insurance paid for. I didn't have a job. I didn't get sent on a full ride to school. I couldn't just go on spring break in all these places. My family didn't go to Aspen or Park City or Deer Valley or Beverly Hills every quarter, or the Cayman Islands. I didn't have that. And I always wondered, like, when I started like trying to come up, I always wondered, like, why didn't my parents strive for more? Why didn't they want more? But I'll tell you what, Manny, my dad worked 7 to 3, Monday to Friday. He had every weekend off. He had Medcare because we lived in Canada. And my parents came to my games. They were there for me. They taught me. We had family dinner every night. They were always like around. My dad had a very loving relationship with my mom. He had a close circle of friends that were like family to us. I'll tell you what, man, looking back at that, seems pretty damn good. Sign me up for that life. You know what I'm saying? It's just, there ain't nothing wrong with that at all. Being happy. Because, by the way, when you die, you don't take your Bentley with you. You don't take your jet with you. You're gone. So I think there's something to be said to just enjoying life. Now, that said, you were that guy and you loved your job and you were happy and content, and now you're dealing with this catastrophe. Well, fuck, you got to do something. That's where it gets hard.
Sure. Yeah, I knew by bringing you on, you were going to shake things up for a better reason because, like you said, that answer to start off with was basically leveling the playing field of what probably the expectation would have been. Oh my God, you got to pivot, go develop skills. But you said, no, what's wrong with just chilling, man? Like, just take a break. And I think how you finished it just there was, all right, now I think it's evaluating, all right, well, where am I really at? And sort of doing this introspection part where you start to ask yourself some more questions, figure out what the next moves might be, and then adapt, because that's fully where we're at right now, is in a world of adaptation, it seems like. And so, you and I have had some great conversations the last couple of weeks, as even someone like you is adapting sort of how you've been running your business and how you've been planning to roll out your new online program, how you're now parenting from home. How have you put in new processes and new ideas? Basically once you started to realize, all right, this thing is really serious, we've got to adapt too. What have you done, and how did you start to look forward and take new steps?
I think through my experience, I look at everything as a worst case scenario. And I'm not one of these believers that May 1st, May 4th, May 8th, May 15th, June 28th, August the 2nd, I don't know, whatever dates people are throwing around out there. I could go on forever about that, but I'm not a believer that the world's going to all of a sudden turn back to normal tomorrow and everyone's going to get their job back and everything's going to be good. So you got to be realistic. I'm thinking we're in this thing till 2022.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're in and out of it. I think that for a couple of reasons. Politicians are running the show right now. And I don't think any politician wants to let the economy die, but I don't think any politician wants to let people die either, because they're both bad for their personal business. Has nothing to do with caring about people. I want to get reelected. I want to keep a gravy boat going. So you can't shut the economy down. So people kind of got to go back to work, but you can't let people go back to work because people are going to die, and that's going to look bad on you too. So I think we're doomed to live in this middle ground where we're just going to be up and down with this stuff for the next 2 years.
Yeah, you have.
That's what I think.
Yeah, no, listen, that's great. And so, a couple of things. One is, what does that mean? Like, in preparation of doomsday, whether it's literal or figurative, one, and then two is what's really the agenda behind all this, right? Because I've been researching and studying a lot, and let's just say for the most part, I've been asleep. Like, I've been wide awake, but I've also been asleep to other things.
Mm-hmm.
And amidst this pandemic, I started, fortunately, because like you said earlier, there's great content out there, and there's non-traditional media that's pumping stuff where it offers a parted way of you be able to look at something. And I was like, shit, I'm curiously interested in that. So I'd go look at it, and I'd watch it, and I'd say, damn, that kind of makes sense. And there's different narratives as to why this whole thing is taking place, right? When it comes to the government. And I've gone down these rabbit holes, and people would say, oh, it's crazy. Well, is it crazy that, multiple people are coming out and saying it's a manufactured thing, it's a planned thing, it's purpose economic demise, it's new world order? I feel like I can have this conversation with you because you have a very, flat, hey, I'm going to give you how I think. It's not about emotion. It's not about this. So I'm curious on your take on that. If you even go down some of those directions. And you mentioned Bedros. So for example, I watch a lot of Valuetainment, which is done by Patrick Bet-David. I know him and Bedros have done some stuff together. And same with Brad. They've shared some stages together and what have you. So he's had these scientists and these doctors and these, conspiracy theorists on there. And the story they tell, dude, is pretty fucking fascinating. I'm like, wow, like, what makes these guys loony bins? There's nothing that makes them loony bins. They're telling you facts that are backed by science and data. And if you look at it and you go down and you do the research yourself, you actually start to see that it's truth. But people don't want that for some reason. So I was going off there, but I'm curious to know what you're kind of thinking about how that whole thing works.
I'll say this. First of all, no one knows what the truth is with anything. There's a saying by Friedrich Nietzsche that essentially it means no one gets in God's opera box, which means there's no such thing as true objectivity, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what the truth is. I don't know how deadly Corona is. I know it kills some people, but it seems to attack people who are already overweight, out of shape, diabetes, or old. You can have a debate between, like, is it more deadly than the flu? Is it not more deadly than the flu? You can have a debate on maybe it's better to let this thing wash over the country and just open up for business and protect the vulnerable as best we can. Or maybe it's better to just, put everybody away in their house and quarantine everybody forever. None of that matters because we're not making the decisions right now. If the Las Vegas mayor says y'all are going to open up, y'all are going to open up. She says you guys are going to close down, y'all are going to close down. You know what I mean? We're also probably not going to deal with mass amounts of people revolting and just going outside. So realistically, this is the hand that we've been dealt, and this is the situation we're in.
Yeah.
So the question is, you can read your conspiracy books. You can shout from the rooftops. You can start a YouTube channel. You can go shack up with Alex Jones and talk about the chemtrails, turning the frogs gay, or whatever the fuck that guy was spouting off.
Another one. That's another one.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
you can do whatever you want. The reality of the situation is, this is the world we're living in right now, and you got to figure out how somehow to adapt to it.
Yeah. So true. And
give me one quick sec, Manny. I got to go round this kid up. Don't record. Hold on. Hey, Babu. Regardless, this is a situation we're in, and people need to adapt, Manny. Like, they just, you can't, I don't like the word pivot. Everyone's like, pivot. You might not know how, but you're going to have to adapt to the new world somehow.
Sure. You talked about bullying at the beginning of this, and I understand. I side with that, dude. Like, I have a problem with people telling me what to do and trying to impose their shit on me. And I'm guilty of allowing it to happen at times, because you're kind of in this caught up position where it's like, no, I'm here for a reason. I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm doing this, or whatever that, reason might be. But I'm looking at this now, and my hope as an individual is that people start to wake up, right? People start to see both sides. And anything that I've ever done, especially, like, for example, when I got sober, dude, I got so happy because I was now experiencing this new joy. And the first thing that I wanted to do was go share it with somebody. And I was trying to impose it on other people, and they may not have wanted it, but you just want to share, right? You just want them to sort of experience the same thing because it becomes this bliss. I'm looking at part of this right now as a big bully effort, dude. I'm like, dude, you do have these politicians that are in office right now that are fucking bullying the American public and telling them what they can and cannot do based off of something that, again, depends on which side of the argument you sit on, may or may not be true. And you're affecting, dude, that's what upsets me, is like people's livelihoods are being affected right now, dude. Like, people are genuinely afraid to go out and talk to other people. People are hiding behind walls. Like, we're losing the human spirit right now because of this bully tactic, I think. Now, somebody would argue with me on the other side. Well, the coronavirus is a public health scare. I get it. I understand. At the same time, look at the data, look at the information. And so that's where I'm sort of ticked off, is that it's like the great bully effort of, 2020. And that pisses me off, dude. And I've watched a couple of other interviews and, snippets of great people talking about some great stuff. Then you've got the big technology companies that are literally cutting them off. And I'm like, why are they doing that, dude? Why are they cutting them off from public domain? And they're talking about certain subjects, but everything else is okay, dude. It's like they're trying to censor and silence something, and that frustrates me. Again, maybe it shouldn't, Bobby, but it just makes me think, like, dude, there is something happening right now that they don't want us to know or be a part of, and they're doing that, and that doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree fully. I don't know if it's bullying, because bullying, to me, there has to be an intent. I think it's bullying by proxy in a way. Mm-hmm. Whoever is making the decisions, like, let's call him Donald Trump. I don't think he's the only one making the decisions. And I don't think he has executive say. There's a lot of checks and balances and stuff in there. But these people are just looking to save their hide politically.
Yeah.
They're not trying to oppress you. They're not trying to hold the man down. Like when I hear talk like that, you're not that important, Manny. No one's trying to hold you down. They are trying to save their skin and not look bad politically.
Sure.
So every decision that's happening, again, it's weighing the political cost of what's worse from my ballot ticket, letting 200,000 people die and being told I'm responsible for that, or opening up the economy. And so, perfect example, the CEO of Lifetime Fitness last week had this, it was a bizarre rant. I don't know if you saw it, about how we're going to open up and COVID's not that dangerous. There's a cure coming. The studies have shown it's not that bad. Iceland proved it. It was kind of an incoherent rant. Sure. And then in the next sentence, he said, and all our employees are going to deal with this by wearing hazmat suits and wearing masks. And I'm like, whoa, back up. So this thing's not dangerous and it doesn't kill anybody. Iceland proved it. I don't know why I had to mention Iceland, but cool. But you want me to wear a hazmat suit to work. So is this shit dangerous or not? Like, imagine I said to you, hey, Manny, come on in my house. Now listen, my bulldog, she's not dangerous and not violent, but don't make sudden moves. Don't make eye contact with her. Don't touch me under any circumstance. Walk backwards and make sure that if she does bite you, you scream the safe word. Well, okay. Is your bulldog violent or not, Bobby?
Right.
Because it just sounds like you just told me she wasn't violent, but you gave me all these crazy rules. And I'm not so sure about this. That's what's happening. So he says he's going to open clubs. Well, a couple of days later, he puts out a statement. We can't open the club and risk people's health for the sake of pumping a little iron. Do you think that decision was motivated out of the good of his heart? Or do you think one too many people wrote complaint letters or blew him up and he's making a political decision?
Well, the latter.
Yeah. So that's all it is. It's not bullying. People are just trying to save their skin politically. But again, this is the position that we're in. Yeah. I also feel, and this may be a dissenting point of view, what's written in the Constitution and the ideals of freedom, that's different than how it actually plays out. Because we've seen a lot of countries in the world take freedom away from people in a heartbeat if they want to.
Yeah, that's exactly why people want to keep continuing to come to the United States of America.
Yeah, but don't think that you can't get drafted into World War III.
So that's a whole nother can of worms I didn't even think about.
I know, but you know what
right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, you're free. Liberty and justice for all. You can make your own ticket. By the way, son, you're going to war.
Sure.
No choice anymore. What the fuck? Where's my freedom then? Freedom's kind of an illusion to a degree. You're free till a bunch of masked people show up at your house with guns and flashbang grenades and tell you you're not free.
Right.
So my point with that is, all the conspiracy stuff aside, this is the landscape we're living in for the next, is how I'm preparing for the next 2 years. We're going to be in and out of quarantine. And by the way, you're also a slave to what society thinks. Because if you're a pariah for opening your business right now, you can go ahead and open your business, but people might not support you. They might, what's the word I'm trying to use here, Manny? They might boycott you because they think you're socially wrong.
Right.
So you're not free in that regard either, regardless of some government telling you what to do. If you decide to open up your gym and people are like, wow, you're a terrible person, you're putting people's health at risk and no one signs up for membership, it will close your place down.
Yeah, it's going to be what I'm watching right now, what I'm hearing you say is that basically what I'm taking from it is that it is what it is. And what's going to be is that there's going to be two opposing sides. One, they're going to say, oh my God, I can't take this anymore. Open up. The other one's going to be like, oh my God, I'm terrified of the virus. you're crazy. Your business is there, your restaurant. I can't believe you're putting us in harm's way. And it's just going to be, look, here's another thing, right? Divide and conquer. That's another big catchphrase that's been being tossed around lately. Keep dividing the people, which it's evident. And you're still, people are still fucking arguing with each other about what's really going on. And look, even in this case, we're having a good conversation. It's not an argument, by the way. This is complete curiosity about like, what's your thoughts on it? A place I would probably never have gone before because I was just so closed off to it and uneducated that I didn't even ever decide to learn about it. But now I'm like, oh man, that's
Yeah, but here's the reality. You could learn all you want. It still doesn't change the landscape of what's going to go on.
Correct.
You may or may not be allowed to go to the grocery store. And by the way, if Costco says you're only allowed 20 people in the store at a time, they have freedoms. They're a private business. You have to play by their rules if you want to shop there.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting that even the places we love so much have their own rules, and we are basically following their governance?
I can tell you right now, you're not allowed to buy my Lightspeed course.
Yeah.
I don't like you, Manny. I don't like the way you talk to me. I don't like this podcast. I don't like your fucking shirt. I'm not selling you my course. I have rights. You have to sell. No, I don't. I don't have to work with you. I don't have to sell anything to you. You're not free. Everyone's got this idea, this illusion. They can do whatever they want, whenever they want, and say whatever they want without consequence.
Yeah.
Doesn't work like that. So my point, I'm preparing to be in this for 2 years where it's up and down and up and down. So what do I got to think about? I got rent at my gym. I got overhead I got to provide for. How am I going to pay for that for 2 years if a member doesn't show up? I'm going to figure out the answer to that question. I don't have the answer right now, but I'm going to figure it out. Then I'm going to figure out how I'm going to work from home and make it effective. Then I'm going to figure out how I'm going to cope with working with my kids. You know what one of the ways I cope is, Manny?
You do what you're doing right now. You bring them into the mix.
You want me on a podcast? My kid's going to be there. Well, that doesn't.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm not going to be on your podcast then, Manny. Okay, I'm on to the next. So you have to have that confidence. It's taken me a long time to get there. But I'm going to have to make a plan for the next. I'm going to be in this house for 2 years. I'm going to pretend that's going to be the scenario, and I'm going to plan that. And guess what? If we're let out of this in 2 weeks, awesome. Good. It never came to fruition. I'm fine. But that's how I'm going to treat it. Like it's the worst case scenario. Now, the other part of that is people are like, well, that's going to cost you so much time. Stop overvaluing your time. You're not worth that much. I have 6 hours today to get work done, to transfer my thing online. It's not going to cost me a cent. My time's not that valuable. I'm going to make it happen. Use your time because it's free. Everyone's got this time. No, it doesn't. Your time's not that important.
Yeah,
get your stuff done and pay and do something to pay yourself, because that's when people talk like that, I hear an obstacle or an objection or an excuse. So here's a perfect example, Manny. Hey, Manny, can you do me a favor? And I'm going to tell you the answer. You're going to say, I don't have time. My time's too valuable for that. Manny, can you start writing up some documents on how to transfer your sales stuff online? You're going to say, my time's too valuable for that.
Right. Or pay me.
Great. But then you go spend 6 hours watching Netflix today. Fuck off, Manny. Like you just told me your time's too valuable, but then you spend 6 hours watching Netflix. No, your time's not too valuable. Your time's worth Netflix.
Yeah. It's what you prioritize.
So my point to that is you probably have 4 or 5 hours in a day that you can work to transition your business. If you're sitting at home listening to this, if you have 4 to 5 hours sitting at home today, use it to do something productive rather than staring at the walls.
Bobby, do you think that is a matter of people being overturned by the uncertainty and the fear, or not knowing how to pivot, or they just don't care as much as they may have thought that they did, and really realize that, damn, this is going to be a lot harder than I thought?
I think it's different for different people. Number one, I think some people are scared, so they put up obstacles or excuses so they don't have to face their fears. That's a very real possibility. Another very real possibility is they're lazy and they don't want to do the work. Another very real possibility is they just are hoping and praying that someone's going to pull them out of this.
Yeah.
Another very real possibility is they're paralyzed by fear and don't know how to act. These are all things we have to take into account. The other one is what I talked about earlier in the podcast. Some people don't know how to pivot. And the more you yell at them to pivot, they're like, I don't know how to do that.
So what do you think is the solution then? Like, what would somebody have to do? Is it just looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, look, dude, wow, this, we've been over leveraged in everything we've ever done, right? We're in debt with our credit cards. We're over leveraged with our business.
Okay.
We've been
Let's have a hard talk.
being floated forever, right?
Let's have a hard talk. I'm going to talk to you about the rules of buying a house. Do you know what the 3 most important rules are, Manny?
You told me this a couple of weeks ago. I want you to tell me, but I don't.
Number 1, you should never buy a house that's worth 3 times more your gross yearly income. So you make $100,000 a year, Manny. The most expensive house you should buy is $300,000 a year. But that's not how people behave. You make $100,000 and you go buy an $800,000 house.
Right.
We're like, well, the bank lent me that money. Oh, good. I'm glad you're putting responsibility on the bank. An entity that's there to screw you over and take your money at every opportunity. Good for you. No, you made the choice. I couldn't believe when I was making like $60,000 a year and I went to buy my first house for a mortgage payment. The people at the bank were going to approve me for $500,000. And I'm like, are you guys fucking nuts? I'm not spending that on a house. So I didn't. That was a choice. Just because they were going to pre-approve me for a mortgage for $500K doesn't mean I went out and bought a house for $100K. I went a little over budget. You know what I bought my first house for? $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. Because I knew I could make the payments on that. So that's number 1. Number 2, you should have 6 months after you buy your house, 6 months of living expenses, not just mortgage, full living expenses saved up in your bank account. If you have to tap into that to buy your house is too expensive.
Right.
So guess what? When the COVID comes, you're laid off for 3 months. You still have 3 months in the bank after that. Smart, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All these businesses that were running on debt and they go out of business, that's your own fault. You're not a victim. You spent your money irresponsibly. You were taking clients to $10,000 dinners rather than putting that money away for a rainy day. That's your fault. Number 3, whatever your net 2-week paycheck is, your mortgage should not exceed that number. So, Manny, you make $70,000 a year and you get taxed at a rate of 28%. So I'll times that by 72. It's $50,400. Divide that by 52. You make $969 a week. We'll times that by 2. $1,938. Your mortgage payment should not exceed $1,938. And by the way, that roughly equivalent, like is equivalent to that first number I gave you, that 3 times your gross income. They're kind of like, use one or the other. My point is, if you went and bought a house outside those parameters, you have no right to complain to anybody because you were taking a risk that everything was going to be okay and you were not going to undo any hardship. You weren't going to experience any COVID. You weren't going to experience, well, we could have never seen COVID coming. That's great. But what if you needed a new roof? What if your kid needed medical expenses? What if your car broke down? This is why so many Americans every year foreclose on their homes, because they're not responsible.
Yeah, it's talk about it's an epidemic, right? That's a whole separate epidemic. That's also
But
prevalent in today's day and age, right?
When I got deathly ill, I had 6 months of living expenses saved up. So when I was laying in a bed for 2 months, unable to get out, unable to work, unable to make $1, I could dip into my savings.
Yeah, you were
No,
there.
that's not what people do. They cry. Nobody could have saw COVID coming. Oh, but nobody gets cancer. Nobody's car breaks down. Nobody gets a medical issue. Nobody gets laid off from work. Grow up. This is your fault you're in this position. The first thing is accepting that you fucked up.
Mhm.
And maybe you should start learning to live within your means.
Which,
That,
yeah,
that's number one. The second thing is, fuck, here I am. I fucked up. Now I'm going to fix it. Start doing everything you can to live within your means. And start thinking, what else can I do to make money? Because you're probably capable of doing more than one job. And I'll tell you, there are people making money right now. You know who's making a lot of money right now?
oh,
Jeff Bezos.
sure.
You know who's making a lot of, we're actually using their software right now, Manny. Tell me who's making a lot of money right now.
Zoom.
I think Zoom started Corona, personally. I don't think that at all, but they're making money. Guess who's making money again? Facebook. Guess who's making money? Online trainers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Grocery
money,
store.
yeah, the grocery stores, the money doesn't disappear. It just, and I'm not a financial guy at all. The money doesn't disappear. It just goes somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you have this thing, I need the thing, I'm going to pay for the thing. So maybe go work at Starbucks, maybe go work at the grocery store, maybe go work at the Costco. Do what you got to do. You know, it was real interesting. Costco delivers now. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but I figured they could because you have all these app companies that are now delivering anything basically to your doorstep. So
I got my Costco
no
delivered.
surprise.
Woman showed up with her 4-year-old son. And this little 4-year-old was bringing stuff to my front door. I tipped them $20.
Nice.
You mind if I tipped a little? I love seeing little dudes work. It like tugged on my heartstrings.
Sure.
She's figuring it out.
Brilliant.
Now, I can judge her and I can say, how can you be working with the, maybe she's willing to take the risk. Good. Cool. That's her choice. That's where freedom comes in.
Mm-hmm.
She can make that choice. So now you're sitting there. This is unfair. I'm being forced to choose between being safe and providing my family an income. Welcome to the history of the human race, motherfucker. People have been making those choices for thousands of years.
Yeah, which makes you think about, well, what's your question that you're going to ask yourself about the choice that you're going to make? Basically, how am I going to do this myself? What is my move going to be, right? What am I going to do to get out ahead? Pretty much.
I'm a pretty primal guy, man. Have you ever tried to kill a saber-toothed tiger?
No, I don't think I ever would.
You ever try to kill a woolly mammoth?
Never. Okay.
Let's bring it back to 10,000 years ago.
By the way, Bobby, just the one in my head, man, that invincible one that we've dealt with for the fearful.
So let's have a talk. Let's rewind 10,000 years ago. Manny and his wife and his kids are sitting around. And I'm sitting around with the wife and my kids, and we're in tribal council. Fuck, we're hungry. How are we going to eat? We got to go kill one of those mammoths. Manny, that's super dangerous. Well, we're going to starve to death. All right, let's fucking get some weapons and go kill a woolly mammoth. That's when the world was truly free. You still had to make a choice. So not to downplay it, but if I'm going to lose my house, I got to make a choice. Do I go work for Amazon? Do I go work at the grocery store? Or do I lose my house? You got to make a choice.
Yeah, I had quite a few conversations with some people that were panicking, like we're talking about right now, that, you know, they were getting furloughed or maybe let go. And I said, look, you know, just remove your ego, go over here. You can get a job. Amazon just hired 100,000 people warehouse, bonds and
okay. Can I stop you there?
Yeah, of course.
But I don't want to work for Amazon. I went to university. Fuck off.
Which is where I was going, dude. That's exactly where I was going.
Like, you know what? People are too good to work for. You know what's actually pretty cool about this? Have you ever heard of the restaurant called McDonald's?
Very much.
They sell burgers, fries, things like that. If you're unfamiliar.
Yeah, milkshakes on occasion.
You know,
Coffee.
they actually have a very good corporate executive program. Like if you're a regional manager for McDonald's, you can make 6 figures and have a car.
I don't doubt it.
Here's the kicker. Do you know how you get to be a regional manager?
You work your
You
way up.
gotta start on the fry line.
Yep.
But you know what, Manny? You're too good to serve people fries.
See, and that is where we've got to, man. And by the way, talk about, we're bringing back the segues again. You said something to me about 15 minutes ago when you were just firing off. You said, you're not that important. And I caught that because you said it to me and you weren't being a dickhead. You were just telling me the truth. And it's not offensive. It's real when we're talking about the macro of the world, right? Like I'm not that important, even though whether it's myself or the millions, if not hundreds of millions of other people think in this way, like we're discussing right now about I'm too good to go work at Starbucks or I'm too good to go pack groceries. And they end up getting in their own way because of what? The ego or some other involuntary thing that they've just conditioned themselves with. And so they prevent themselves from doing what we're trying to encourage here, that pivot, that adaptation. And so I want you to talk a little bit about that whole you're not that important thing, because not only have you said that to me, and we've talked about this before, I think actually at your favorite place, Italy, but also I was listening to Ray Dalio's book about a month ago, and he said the same thing. He's like, you are just a tiny little fucking speck on this planet for a short period of time, and you think that your world is ran by this invincible idea that you're that important. Then you'd have somebody argue on the other end, well, you got to believe you're important and you're valuable and you're worthy of something. So then you can start to argue from both sides. So now I'm going to toss the ball to you, Bobby, and I'm going to say, hey, let's have at it. I want to know your thoughts on that one.
So people value the wrong things. They value cars. They value money. They value fancy watches. Nobody cares. Give you an example. Where did you grow up?
Hold on. Let me just jump in right there, dude, because I just had this conversation in my own mind, by the way. Because part of what I love is getting on here and being able to say, look, this is where I'm faulty. This is where I make mistakes. I got this apartment on the Strip, dude, thinking it was going to make me fucking, bigger, better, faster. I've been reevaluating the lease coming up, and I'm like, let's get honest with yourself, Manny. Yeah, I live on the Strip. It's cool. I can go down to Italy, go to Robichon, like you said, access these places. But has it made me cooler? Have I had more chicks over to hook up with? And have I made millions and millions of dollars because my apartment is overlooking the Strip? And the answer is no, dude.
Nobody cares.
Nobody gives a fuck.
If they do.
Only person that did, Bobby, was me. I gave a fuck, right?
Okay.
I'm like, dude, you're a clown myself, right?
Do you want to get married one day?
Of course.
Let me ask you a question. What are your prerequisites at a mate? I want her to only love me for money. No, said no one ever.
Sure.
So, go get the fancy apartment. If that's the only reason she likes you, you don't want her.
Right.
You want a woman that will be there for you thick and thin, whether you're rich or poor. Not she only likes you because you picked her ass up in a Bentley. And by the way, that goes the same thing for the ladies out there. I only want a boyfriend who only likes me because I'm hot. Really? What happens when you're not hot anymore? What, he's going to leave? That's not what you want. So if you want those things for the wrong reasons, you deserve everything you get. Because you're a vapid, materialistic lowlife. You deserve that. You deserve to get cheated on. You deserve to get used because you set the table for that. Number one. But where did you grow up?
Here in Las Vegas.
Okay. So rich family in Las Vegas, the Fertittas. Are Fertittas rich?
Very.
If you go to Toronto and say, oh, well, you clearly don't know the Fertittas. Someone in Toronto is going to be like, the who?
Yeah, right.
So,
you're right, I don't.
You could be a big deal in Las Vegas. That's great. Nobody cares in the rest of the world. Nobody cares. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There are some people who care. If you're LeBron James, a lot of people know who he is. You're Mark Cuban. Cool. You're who's that girl? Brunette. She has a TV show. She's married to Kanye.
Oh, Kim.
Yeah. So I'm looking up actually something here right now for you. But do you know who Larry Tannenbaum is?
Oh man, I know the name. I can't draw to where he's what I
You
know.
don't. He owns the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Got it.
You know how much the Toronto Maple Leafs are worth?
3 billion.
Yeah. It's a lot of money. And this dude, Larry Tannenbaum, is probably worth like $8 gazillion. Just so we're clear. He could walk into a Las Vegas casino and no one would know who he is.
So true.
So like nobody cares. So my point is nobody cares about you or your money or your whatever, but you're worried at home. People are going to judge me if I work at Starbucks. Nobody cares, dude. By the way, how do you know that guy working at Starbucks doesn't have more than what you have?
Right?
Here, I have a friend. He's one of the best lawyers in Canada. Just all I'm going to tell you about him is he retired at the age of 41 because he didn't need to work anymore and he didn't want to. You think he did well or not?
Yeah, very well.
What do you want to do with your life? He goes, I want to serve people coffee at Starbucks. Pardon me? Yeah, I love coffee. I want to be a barista. So, whoa. You're going to go from being one of the best litigators on the planet, serving people coffee. He goes, yeah, coffee makes people happy. It's what I want to do with my life now.
And that attitude right there that you,
Yeah.
in this case, you're like, you want to do what?
But now you're looking at this dude and you're getting your coffee and you're like, what a waste, man. Look at that guy. He's like 40. He's good looking. He's working at a Starbucks. Man, that guy must have went wrong somewhere in life. He's a drug addict. He's a booze hound. He must have went through a rough time. Man, he's got more money than God.
Right.
Okay. He's like serving people coffee. Who are you to judge?
Meanwhile, that guy's happy as a clam.
Just thrilled. There's actually a story about that, about I think it's Oxford University. So Dean of Oxford comes home. My English professor told me a story years ago. Dean of Oxford comes home. Says to his wife, he's dean of the most prestigious university on the planet. I hate my job. I hate my life. She's like, what do you want to do? He's like, I want to be a postman. She goes, what? I want to deliver the mail. I've always wanted to be a postman since I was a kid. I want to ride my bike from mailbox to mailbox and deliver the mail. Fuck, okay. Guy goes, puts his resume in at the post office. He ain't too good for that. What he wants to do. So get over yourself.
Dude, that's like a dagger to the soul.
Yeah,
and
like
it's necessary, man. I look, I think we all battle it to some degree, right? And it's, I think, to the point where it starts to govern, life or death, and maybe potentially inhibit progress. That's a problem, right? You start to evaluate. And I think, truthfully, man, I think the more experience you get, the wiser you become. You start to notice that things don't matter as much as they once did, right? And unfortunately, we're nowadays in today's environment, sadly, everything that's being projected is that it's this theaterish. I'm living in this beautiful place. I'm doing this, and like you said earlier in this podcast, was it's a fraction of what the truth is, right? It's really easy to hide and or manipulate the facts. And unfortunately, I think that's what probably leads to tremendous amount of more of mental health and, some other these, negative effects that take place and end up sending people down these bad spirals. So I hear you, man. I like what you're saying, dude. I always have, by the way. That's why I think we have such a good relationship, because you talk about it from a place that really turns your chin and makes you look up.
I'm not above working at Starbucks.
Right.
I'm the great Bobby Maximus. I'm famous worker outer. I have a course with the people that did the course for First Form and Tony Robbins. And I fought in the UFC, and I would be, man, I'll go serve fries at McDonald's. If it's coming to pay my mortgage or look my kid in the eye and tell him we don't have a place to live anymore, I will go serve fries all day with a smile on my face.
Hmm.
And I will be the best damn fry server you've ever had. Those French fries will be better than any French fries you've ever had, and I'll be regional manager in 6 months.
There you have it. Yeah.
Like that's all. I mean, it's not easy. It's taken me a long time to build up that confidence. So here's the thing, to the advice you asked to give somebody. That's the advice. But I don't expect you to just turn that tap on tomorrow. Like, it's great to listen to Brad Lee inspirational quotes, Bobby Maximus inspirational quotes, Andy Frisella inspirational quotes. They're all incredible people. See what I did there? I called myself incredible. You Tony Robbins, that's incredible. But you can't just go home and then just be changed forever after listening to somebody speak for one podcast. You got to go do the work, and it might take a while.
Yeah, I think the part of the macro economic challenge is someone trying to skip steps. And I talked to my best buddy the other day, and this guy is in the fight for his life to build his business and is evolving rapidly. And we just had a very open and honest conversation about, man, you just got to keep putting in the work and trust the process and not think that, tomorrow I'm going to be a multimillionaire. It's like, I just posted something on Instagram right before we got on this podcast because I was really feeling it in my heart, man. I'm like, I'm far from where I want to be financially because, dude, I do want to have a great amount of money so I can, pass it back to family, create wealth for the future generation to come. Like, that's something I desire. It's just, and I know I can do it. I know in my heart and soul it's possible. And I oftentimes I go in and I start beating myself up because in a couple of years where I've actually had my head on straight, I haven't got to where I want to be yet. And I'm like, God damn, dude, do you ever take a step back and sit there and think about how you've everything you've done, you've gone into something you were completely terrified of and mastered it within months? Have you ever thought about the fact that you're getting out of this comfort zone and you're growing at exponential speeds and you're only 34? And I think I forget that stuff sometimes. So everybody else out there is at the same time, we've got to kind of just take a step back and think about, all right, well, how do we round this thing off and make sure that we continue to make good progress forward? So, and it goes back to what you're saying. It's really about the experience, man. Like, this is going to teach you something. Is it going to teach you to be better on the other side, or is it going to teach you to regress and bury yourself into a hole, which puts you back 5-10 years, right? That's sort of my thoughts on the whole thing, my man.
Well, and you learn by doing. Just get over yourself and go do it.
I love you, man. That's just get over yourself. That's it.
No one cares.
Yeah.
Like, nobody cares. That's the thing. And you're so worried what people are going to think. Who cares what other people think? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to do me.
So listen, let's sum this thing up, wrap it up. A couple things real quick. One is like, if you can do it quickly, quick little home plan to keep the mind right, keep the body right. I know you're very active with that and your shift. And then, final thoughts, and then I'll ask you one last question, and then we'll be
number one. Exercise every damn day. It's part of your self-care. It's like brushing your teeth or wiping your ass.
Yes.
Just fucking work out. It will make your mind better. It will make your immune system better. It will make you happier. You're going to look better naked, which has benefits. Like, just exercise every day to keep your body and your mind right. Number two, take the worst case scenario. We're going to be in this for 2 years. Formulate a plan, how you're going to get out. And 3, do something for 2 hours a day to enact that plan. Just 2 dedicated hours. Watch an online course, research something, take some sales classes, send out your resume to Amazon, to Uber Eats, to DoorDash, to whoever will take it. Do something to enact your plan. Do those 3 things, you're golden.
You know what I love about the practicality of that is that, dude, that's the same. And what's very real about it is that's what it takes in any environment. Like, dude, that's what it takes, right? You should have, if you were doing your life job right, you would have already been creating up these patterns and these routines for yourself. If you have not been, like Bobby just said, go do it now because it's going to give you sanity like that. And I'll actually add something to that, which I thought was pretty unique. And I'll share with even you, Bobby, with something that I'm doing right now. Like, I love the challenge of, doing something out of this world because it's an identity booster, right? So I was doing some research the other day on like the greatest prison stories ever. And obviously Nelson Mandela was in prison for 27 years and he came out better. He became president of South Africa. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, if he can sit in prison for 27 years in this little tiny cell, right? And have only access to get outside here once in a while, and then come out better and build something where everybody in the world remembers him. I want to do something similar in my life. I want to force myself to buckle down and create something in this burst, whether it's the next 6 months or the next year, where I almost like force myself to feeling. This is just me, by the way. This is my humble opinion. To where in 1 year and 6 months from now, I come out a completely different human being. Because bottom line is if we're trying to build something spectacular right now, we've got to buckle down and focus and get it done. And I just kind of like those approaches. That's just the way I see it. But yeah, dude, I mean, got some great stuff to look forward to. Again, with sentiment towards folks that have, maybe been victim of this, but that's not the right way to look at it. So I genuinely appreciate you, man. Where can we go out and find the Maximus Mindset online course?
MaximusMindset.com. It'll take you to the payment portal. It's a great course if you like the stuff I'm talking about, dealing with self-imposed limitations, negative self-talk, stress relief, better sleep, better nutrition, better life overall. It's the course for you. And it's not one of these like soft sells where it's like, oh, you're going to get some life coaching and stuff. No. It's real actionable advice you can put into your life right now that you will be better in every aspect of life. I think you'll have a better marriage. I think you'll make more money. I think you'll be better at business. So invest in yourself. Because that's the other thing. If you don't invest in yourself, you're not going to get better at anything.
Amen. And they can find you on other channels, Bobby Maximus on Instagram. You have,
as far as I can tell, I'm the only Bobby Maximus. So I think so. Go at Bobby Maximus and you find me.
I love it. All right, dude. Listen, the last part of it is this last one swing for the fence. What has been the best lesson that the school of the streets has taught you? Like, what is the one street smarts lesson of all the things you've been through? I get you. You're probably like, fuck, man, you're gonna ask me for all the things. I'd be like, what really kind of comes?
No. I know the answer. It's what we've been talking about. Nobody cares. You're not that important. You're not that special. You're just one of 5.5 billion people.
Yeah.
And when you die, you're underground and nobody can. You're like they're on to the next news cycle. Like, and this is sad, but like, you do.
Yeah, that's what.
Now let me take that back. You know who would care?
Does.
This little guy right here.
Yeah.
He would care. I miss my dad every day.
Yeah.
You ever heard of my dad? Nope. And you don't care. It's just nobody cares. You're not that important. So you got a clock on this earth. I don't know how long it's going to last, Manny. 49 years, 52 years, 70 years. There's someone greater than me making those decisions, pulling those strings.
Sure.
Or maybe there's not, and you just randomly die, and then you're just food for the earthworms. I don't know what you believe. You're welcome to your own religious or atheistic beliefs, but 70 years, and in 100 years, no one has ever heard of you.
If that doesn't wake you up, man, I tell you.
Some of the greatest people in the history of the earth that have done some of the greatest things, no one has ever heard of.
Yeah, talk about a wake-up call, man.
I'll tell you one more example here. My lovely wife was talking to me. She doesn't have a classical education like I have. Do you know who Pompey was?
You're talking about the Secretary of State?
No, I'm talking the emperor of the Roman Empire.
Oh, okay.
He
Yes.
was the boss of the entire free world at one point. And she don't know who he is. So you know what? I hope when he went home at night, he took off his sandals and his little wreath of leaves that he wore around his head, that he was a happy guy. He had a wife he loved and kids that respected him.
Yeah.
Because no one knows who he is anymore.
Well, look, I'm one of them, and you're right. And in your
By the way,
point.
he was the boss of the free world. Well, it wasn't free because Rome was a republic, but he was the boss of the greatest empire to ever control the earth. Like the Roman Empire controlled everything. You don't know who he is.
And you wouldn't know unless you were just in those history classes plugged in, huh?
That's it. Like that's just the way it is. Now, maybe you know who Caesar is. He got a little luckier. So people know who he is.
Well, I walk by him pretty often right down here on the boulevard, man.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, this is,
But if it wasn't for Caesar's palace, how many people would know who Caesar was? Like it's kind of funny. So you're thinking you're the most important guy in the world, and everything, the sun, it rises and sets to the beat of your drum, and you're just forgotten right now. You're a pile of dust somewhere in Rome.
man. Well, I mean, you almost got me to a point where I don't even know what to say, but you're absolutely right.
But I hope you're happy. Here's what you're going to say. I hope you're happy doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah. Are you, me? Are you talking to me directly?
Yeah, like, because nobody cares, man. Ain't nobody cares how much money you make, the impact you have on the industry, your so-called legacy. Nobody cares. You know, that's why, and I'll leave people with this, I find joy in simple things. You know what I found joy in last weekend? John Wick 3. Holy shit. That was the most entertaining 2 hours I have ever had. Have you seen John Wick 3?
I don't know if 3, the one I went to see recently was in theaters.
Oh my God. The killing, the puns, the you probably saw the one Parabellum, when that dude who's trying to kill him then all of a sudden is his best friend. He's like, I'm your biggest fan. You've killed a lot of people. It's just brilliant and it's funny. And that was a fun night for me. Just sitting on my couch, just enthralled like a little kid.
And going back to how you positioned it earlier, you know, with the circumstances of right now, it's like, you know, just take a deep breath, right? It's just find that perfect place where you're like, man, it's okay. But don't.
I would rather have watched. John Wick was so good, let me tell you. That was as fun for me as having like Gordon Ramsay over to cook me a private dinner. You know what else I take? What's up, buddy? I take great. Oh yeah, you could play with those. You're welcome. I take great pride in hanging out with him too. You know what's fun? Building Legos with him.
Absolutely.
I get a huge sense of satisfaction taking a pile of nothing and turning it into an awesome toy. Let me tell you, Lego designers are incredible. Like, I don't know how they get the pieces in there. I built probably hundreds of Lego sets. I've never been missing a piece. The way it comes together, the plans, you know, the thought and care it must go into building a Lego set.
Dude, it's like building a fucking compound in the real world.
Yeah. And then guess what? You're at home, you're like, this Lego set sucks. You're lucky you can afford a Lego set, you idiot. Like, it was fun. You want to watch Lord of the Rings? Okay, I'll put it on for you. There's another one. Introducing this little guy. He's about to watch some. Let me tell you the synopsis of this movie. There's a bad guy. He's going to take over the world. Shit's going bad. Gandalf comes in, fucks everything up, and then the world is free again. That's your Lord of the Rings official Bobby Maximus synopsis. Gandalf, you learn one thing from that movie: don't mess with that man. But like, you know how fun it is to give this little 3-year-old, I'm watching him right now. So Manny, picture this. I got shelves in my basement. And I've got the Goblin City. I have Dol Guldur. I have Erebor. I have the pirate ship. I have Bag End. That's where Bilbo Baggins lives. I have the Lake Town. I have the tree in which Azog the Defiler tried to murder Thorin Oakenshield. I've got the mines of Moria. I've got the Black Gate. I've got Helm's Deep. I've got the Tower of Isengard. These are all my Lego sets.
Oh, wow.
Do you know how fun it is to play Legos and like reenact what's happening in the movie for this 3-year-old? Oh my God.
I can tell by the way you're speaking about it.
It's like, why can't we take enjoyment for things like that?
Yeah. Well,
That's what people have forgotten. You need your things. All you're worried about what other people think. I don't care. Like, and it took me a long, I want to reiterate this. I know you want to go, but let me reiterate this. I didn't wake up like this. It took me a lot of years to get to this point. So I can sit here and I can tell you, you should give 0 fucks. It's not that easy. You really got to work at it. And that's where the disconnect is. You know what I mean, Manny? Like, I can tell you to not care, but it's not easy to just have that attitude.
Well, I think that's a great way to bring it home. Essentially, is saying, listen, based off of what you're saying, take those 2 hours that you've mentioned as part of that 3-part plan, right? And invest into that topic, right? Look, hey, it's out there. People have approaches. Bobby has his approach. YouTube probably has 1 million approaches. Go in there and look it up and see.
You can't just listen. You got to work at it.
Right.
So you listen to an inspirational speech by Brad Lee, and Brad Lee says you got to pivot. You got to improve your sales skills. That's great, but you have to go do the work. And it might take you a long ass time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're in a world of quitters that quit the minute something gets hard.
Yeah.
So no, you gotta work at it now. So bring it full circle. You're cooking. Buy yourself a grill, Manny. Buy some cheap meat and start practicing.
Yeah, and not to mention, regardless if it's something that you want to do, it still brings out that creative joy that you're talking about right now. Building a Lego set, or going through the Lord of the Rings with your kid. It's like, because you're attempting something new, it reimagines sort of what it's like to live in that space again. And that is where I think the big win is, in addition to many of the other things that have been said. But dude, you're right, man. Like, I love the way you think, bro. So
have fun with it. Have fun with it. Like, if go get a new video game.
Yeah, try anything for that matter. A challenge. I mean, open up something. Just buy a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle. Buy a game at the game store. There's countless.
You know how many times I've been put down in my life, even now, for building Legos, for liking Magic the Gathering. I love Magic the Gathering, by the way. For liking Dungeons and Dragons.
More than the average person would be able to stomach.
You know what Monday is?
Magic Castle Day.
No. We're going to test our friendship. It's Monday, May the 4th. You know what May the 4th is?
May the 4th, Monday.
Christ, you're so lame.
Well, the 5th is Cinco de Mayo. I know that.
No. May the 4th be with you.
It's
International Star Wars Day.
Yeah, we may have just lost friendship then.
You know what I'm going to do for May the 4th?
Dress up.
I'm going to dress up. I have a Millennium Falcon t-shirt. I have a Darth Maul mask.
Yeah, dude, that's great.
I'm good. My kids love it. We make Star Wars shaped pancakes. This is no joke. It is fun. You know what? If you want to walk down the street and you want to call me a loser or a nerd or whatever you want to call me, go right ahead. I'm going to say this, you're probably picking a fight with the wrong guy.
Well, two reasons. One, you get your ass kicked because Bobby's probably 10 times bigger than you and stronger. Not to mention, you're going to kick your own ass because you're projecting something that is basically an inadequacy or
Yeah. Good. You go drive your Bentley. Manny, in closing, I had a guy once when I was in Toronto. It was in a back alley behind the Brand House. It was a bar. And I'm going to tell you, spoiler alert, there's probably still blood in the concrete from this encounter. He poked me in the chest and said, "Do you have any idea how much money I make?" You know what my response was?
Don't care.
It's not going to save you from what's going to happen to you in the next 30 So good. I don't know what your job is. I don't know who you are. Great. Good. You have a lot of stacks in your safe at home. You picked the wrong guy to put hands on.
Yeah, what a great way to put it, man.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go back to my basement apartment in the middle of nowhere, and I'm gonna watch. At that time, I was watching a lot of Roadhouse. I was watching some Gladiator. I was watching whatever, and I'm gonna have some fun. You're gonna go to the ICU. We're good. Just saying. Like, the point is, I'm happy with that stuff. So I'm gonna dress up, and if you don't like it, you don't like it.
Yeah, brother. Listen, man. I appreciate you, dude. Getting to know you and working with you over the last several months, and just your thoughtfulness and how thorough you are, and the way you open up the brain to be thinking in different waves. It's a very fascinating aura that you've put together, man. And I think it's something that's admirable. At least certainly I look at you that way. So I'm glad that we have developed this, what could be, hope maybe not harmed relationship now, because I don't know may the fourth be with you, but maybe we can get past that.
Hey, listen, man. Just be an 8-year-old for once and buy yourself a Star Wars T-shirt.
Yeah. Hey, man, dude, listen. When I get asked to do something, I very rarely, have a problem with getting going on something. So
just enjoy. Be a kid. Be like my 3-year-old that you've heard all podcast. He is psyched to watch Lord of the Rings right now.
Yeah, he's been great. I love it.
Good. You know what I mean? Like, that's all he wants to do. That's what I want to do too. So if you don't want to do something productive and better yourself, enjoy yourself.
That's a hell of a way to do it.
Well, all right, man. It's been a blast.
You're the man, buddy. I appreciate you.
All right, I'm out.
Bye.